My piece of trash neighbor deliberately ran his sewage pipe into my rice paddy. As I watched that filthy, murky wastewater flood over my seedlings, I didn't go argue with him, and I didn't call the cops. Instead, I quietly pumped all the sewage out of my field and planted hundreds of poplar trees. While everyone was laughing at me, thinking I was soft and easy to bully, they had no idea this newborn grove under my feet was already putting down roots and creeping toward the foundation next door. That morning, like always, I stepped into my family's paddy. But suddenly, a strange warmth wrapped around my ankle, and right after that, a wave of stomach-turning stench shot straight to my head. It was the sickening smell of human waste, and my stomach flipped on the spot. Right in front of me, a dark brown stream was bubbling out from the corner of the ridge, winding its way through the rice field I'd cared for so carefully. The seedlings that used to be bright green were already turning yellow and wilting. In that instant, I froze. My heart hurt so bad I could barely breathe. This field was handed down to me by my mom. It was the only property my family had left from our ancestors, the very thing my mother and I depended on to survive. I followed that black stream back to where it started. Hidden in the weeds, a gray-white PVC pipe was sticking out like a sore thumb, with yellowish-brown liquid still dripping from the end. And the other end of that pipe was connected straight to my neighbor Wang Fugui's brand new luxury villa. Boom. Rage lit up every inch of my body. I clenched my fist so hard that I started trembling from sheer anger. Wang Fugui's smug, arrogant face filled my mind. He always barked orders at everyone in the village like the rest of us were dirt under his shoes. And when he built that villa, he'd even shoved my field ridge inward just to steal a few more feet of land. Every rotten thing he'd done came rushing back, burning across my chest like a red-hot brand. At that moment, all I wanted was to storm over there, grab the hoe by the field, smash his shiny front gate to pieces, and grab him by the collar and ask if his heart was made of sewage too. But the second I lifted my foot, I thought of my elderly mother at home. So I forced myself to take deep breaths again and again. The cold air hit my burning lungs like needles. I swallowed every curse and every urge to throw hands, one by one. With people like him, arguing is useless. And calling the police? Around here, stuff like this usually ends in nothing. At most, they'd make him move the pipe and pay me a few $100 for the ruined seedlings. But what about my dignity? What about this land he'd defiled like it was his personal toilet? That kind of loss meant nothing to him. He'd just think money fixed everything, and next time he'd go even further. I looked around. The fields were empty. All I could hear was the wind brushing through the rice, making a dry rustling sound like silent mockery. I crouched down and reached out to touch the PVC pipe still pouring out that filthy water. Cold, hard. My gaze moved past the pipe and landed right on the foundation of Wang Fugui's villa. I started carefully figuring out the route of the sewage line, the distance between his foundation and my field. Little by little, the look in my eyes settled into something deep and unreadable, like a still lake hiding a violent current underneath. That night, instead of watching TV like I usually did, I pulled out my family's old farming manual. It had been passed down since my great-great-grandfather, filled with folk wisdom most people had never heard of. My finger slid slowly across the pages, until it stopped on the section about poplar trees. It said, "Poplars grow fast, their roots are aggressive, their penetrating power is extremely strong. They can hold soil together, and they can break stone." The corner of my mouth twitched into a smile no one could read. Early the next morning, before the sun was fully up, I grabbed my hoe and went to the field. The early risers in the village all thought I was going to clear out the ruined seedlings, but I didn't. Instead, I avoided the contaminated part of the field and quietly started digging drainage ditches on the other end. One swing after another, steady and hard, dirt flying everywhere. Nobody knew what I was planning. Nobody knew that a revenge plan, carefully laid out and meant to take years, had already begun. The old diesel water pump I borrowed from the village entrance roared like thunder, wheezing like a tired old ox. I jammed the thick intake hose deep into the rice field, now blackened by sewage. The murky liquid, mixed with dead seedlings, got sucked into the pipe all at once and dumped into a barren ditch far away. The whole village could smell that spreading stench. Every passerby covered their nose and looked at me with a mix of pity, confusion, and quiet amusement. Old Chen, an elder who had watched me grow up, hobbled over with his cane. "Xiaoli, what are you doing? You gonna pump it all dry and start over with new seedlings? That's a ton of work. This field's basically done for this year." He sighed, eyes full of heartbreak. I shook my head. "Uncle Chen, I'm not planting rice anymore." "Not planting rice?" Old Chen's voice jumped an octave. "If you don't plant rice, what are you and your mom gonna eat? This is your family's ancestral field." I didn't explain. I just stared silently at that hope being drained dry, my eyes empty but stubborn. Right then, a harsh car horn cut through the air. Wang Fugui's brand new black sedan screeched to a stop by the field ridge. He rolled down the window, stuck out his fat head, and smirked at me. "Well, damn. I thought you turned your rice paddy into a fish pond. That smell is brutal. You're really down there pumping out water that nasty?" A few villagers watching nearby let out some muffled snickers. I slowly looked up and glanced at him. There was nothing in that look but dead, icy silence. He actually froze for a second, like he hadn't expected that reaction from me. In his script, I was supposed to cry, rage, or charge at him and start cursing him out. Then he could toss me a few $100 from on high and send me off like a beggar. But I didn't give him that chance. I looked away, turned around, and kept adjusting the pump hose without saying a word, calm like nothing had happened. It was like he'd punched a pillow. Bored, he cursed under his breath, spat on the ground, and sped off. "That bastard." Old Chen was shaking with anger. He's gone too far. Xiaoli, don't be scared. I'll go to the village committee and get justice for you. No need, Uncle Chen. I grabbed his arm. It's useless. Trying to reason with someone like him just humiliates you more. A few days later, the water in the paddy was finally gone. The field that used to be underwater had turned into cracked, rotting mud that reeked. Then, under the even more confused stares of the villagers, a truck pulled up by my field. It wasn't carrying rice seed or fertilizer. It was loaded with bundles of poplar saplings, some no thicker than a thumb, some already as thick as my arm. I unloaded them one by one and carefully stacked them along the ridge while the village gossip started buzzing all over again. That boy in your family has really lost it, leaving good rice unplanted just to grow these useless poplars. I heard ever since his dad passed he hasn't been right in the head. Ha ha ha, Li Chuan, have you gone broke and crazy? Planting trees? Even if you wanted to grow a money tree, you picked the worst spot. That muddy patch soaked in sewage won't grow a damn thing. Looks like you're crazy, just like your old man. The words "your old man" stabbed straight into my chest. My hoe paused for a second, and a suffocating pain hit me hard. But I didn't look up, and I didn't argue. I just swung the hoe even harder over and over again. Wang Fugi, just wait. Soon enough, you'll find out whether what I planted is trees or your death warrant. Spring thunder rolled by, and the first rain of the season soaked the dry ground. The poplar saplings I planted all started pushing out fresh green buds. That little bit of green stood out sharply against the dead-looking earth. From that day on, this grove became my whole world. Every morning before dawn, I went to check on them. Any tree that sprouted, I watered and fertilized. I pulled the weeds from around their roots with the care of someone handling fine porcelain. Sometimes I gently run my palm over their rough trunks like I was talking to my comrades. Grow faster, faster, I whispered to them. The faster you grow, the bigger my hope gets. Day after day in the wind and sun, my face got darker and rougher and thick calluses formed on my hands. But my eyes often flashed with a look that was hard to describe. A mix of anticipation, secret excitement, and cold calculation. The villagers went from saying I was crazy to saying I was possessed. They couldn't understand why a man from generations of farmers would give up food you could actually eat just to grow these useless poplars. Old Chen came by to see me several times, and every time he just sighed. Xiao Chuan, listen to me. Pull these trees up. There's still time to plant something else. Life's already hard enough for you. I just smiled, shook my head, and handed him a cucumber. Uncle Chen, try this, I just picked it. But my silence and stubbornness made every bit of advice useless. Little by little, people stopped bothering to interfere. Time quietly slipped into early summer. That grand villa of Wang Fugi's started showing subtle signs that something was wrong. One afternoon, I pretended to pass by his backyard, and from the corner of my eye, I caught exactly what I was looking for. At the corner of the outer wall on my side of the house, a hairline crack had silently crept upward from the foundation. My heart jumped hard, and then a wave of wild joy rushed through me. This was happening even faster than I'd expected. A few days later, Wang Fugui hired a mason to patch it up. I hid behind my own courtyard wall and listened closely to what the mason was saying. Boss Wang, looks like a little foundation settling. Nothing major. Just patch it up and you're good. Settling? Wang Fugi snapped. I hired the best construction crew around for this place. How could it be settling? You people must have done sloppy work back then. Just fix it now and don't let anybody laugh at me. I leaned against the wall and smiled without making a sound. Nothing major? Wang Fugi, this is only the beginning. Soon after that, the drainage in his backyard started acting up too. It clogged every few days and filthy water kept backing up, leaving the whole yard stinking. Every time he cursed and called someone to unclog it, blaming bad construction or careless use by his family. It never once crossed his mind to look any deeper. And me? I stood by my field ridge and looked at my poplar grove. They'd already shed that early fragile stage. Their branches and leaves stretched wide under the summer sun, glowing with life. I could clearly feel it. Underground, where no one could see, countless roots were spreading like fearless advance troops, carrying out my will as they pushed wildly toward their target. One deserted night, I carried a black plastic bucket and slipped quietly into my poplar grove. Inside was a specially made, high-strength root growth nutrient solution. Carefully, I poured that supplement right around the roots of the few trees closest to Wang Fugui's foundation. Eat up, my babies, I whispered. Full roots work harder. The liquid seeped into the soil and vanished. But I knew exactly what had started. A feast in the underground world. The poplars began growing like crazy, fast enough to see with the naked eye. Every leaf shaking in the wind sounded like a cheer for victory. And on the other side, that villa, the symbol of his money and arrogance, was being eaten away bit by bit from the foundation up, far beyond my sight. After all, I'd played this game with a lot of patience.